Steve here from Jbrc Race Cars. And while we've talked about some of our steering column kits and other components before, we've really never touched on our pedals that we use in our cars and on a tube chassis car. This happens to be a cutaway kind of made up display that we use at trade shows. It's kind of showing you a cutaway of the chassis itself. We used a piece of Lexan over this so you could see through it, showing the pedal assembly and going back to the master cylinder. And this is a rear mounted master cylinder, meaning obviously that the push rod pushes towards the rear of the car and the master cylinder is mounted in the floor pan area of the car between the driver's seat and the pedals. This particular one here, the pedals are chrome just for the display purposes, but I do think that we have one heck of a nice pedal kit, or whatever. Our pedals and assembly and all that's all 4130. Pedals themselves, as you'll see here, got a nice mesh put on the pedal pad to prevent any slippage between the driver's race boot shoe. It's both clutch and brake pedal sitting there. If it's an automatic car, obviously you would keep the brake pedal but lose the clutch pedal here. And the pedal cross shaft that you can't see completely in the cutaway looks like this. Nice heavy wall, because you'll be drilling through that to hook the clutch linkage to. The automatic one, thinner wall material, and then instead of finished off with the double shear tab for the clutch linkage to hook to, just finished off with a washer on that end. Keep in mind that the way the pedal kit was designed by Jerry, in either way, shape, or form, fashion, a car of ours out there in the field that was originally what I'll call all three, clutch, brake, and gas. Customer was running an automatic car. You can always convert and switch to the standard shift. We normally just put a spacer piece of tubing down on the pedal cross shaft assembly. Vice versa, guy was an automatic car and you want to go to a stick, we can convert you over that way. So pedal kit's very versatile to be able to be used for either application. The gas pedal, which is not shown in this particular, well, as we move down later I'll show you. This here is the gas pedal assembly. Again, with the pad material on it to stop any slippage for the driver's foot. And the gas pedal assembly generally mounts off of, which is not shown here, off of our steering column kit. So there's tubing and a threaded end provided and a NAS bolt to bolt the pivot point of the gas pedal to the steering column. Also not shown here would be pedal stops. Pedal stop kit is provided, again, the tubing, and you have a pedal stop both for throttle and adjusted for clutch. There would be, these are kind of the way some of the components would come to you. This would be a brake pedal push rod, giving you the clevis that would hook to the tab on the brake pedal itself here, and then a threaded end to go back to the master cylinder assembly. Clutch linkage would give you, again, tubing assembly with threaded tube ends, a right and left jam nut, right and left rod end, an adjustment nut to put in the center when you've created your linkage, and that would hook from the clutch pedal linkage off the double shear tab at the end of the cross shaft and travel to either the bell housing fork or cross shaft. And then again, this is the throttle linkage, and we'll show you as we get down here further where the throttle linkage is. Totally adjustable throttle linkage, available in two different models that you'll see in our catalog and on our website. Quick release ball linkage ends, very adjustable, but offering you a linkage rod, not any kind of cable or anything, running from the throttle pedal assembly directly to whether it be a manifold bell crank or the throttle on the carb itself. Some of the other features on this here would be showing a tab welded off the clutch pedal to activate the two-step switch. Again, the stops would be behind here, but because the rest of the chassis is in here, can't show that. Finished off here with the pedal boots protruding up through what would be the Lexan, showing basically the floor pan, would be a couple pedal boots to prevent any basically exhaust fumes or dust, debris, or whatever for entering the cockpit of the car, are these pedal boots that we have. Pedal boots are made of a ballistic material, very similar to that of a parachute pack. We offer two models of them. This one happens to be lined with the Kevlar material. That way, if you've got a under the car exit headers, that like we used to have for years before some of this side exit stuff started taking place, sometimes in time the heat would damage the pedal boot or whatever, so we found by lining them with the Kevlar or whatever, we protect that and prevent that from happening. Pedal boot comes to you like this. Nice laser cut floor ring. The ones on the display just happen to be black powder coated. Again, the ring can be broke. That way, if the floor is completely flat or if you have a step in the floor, the pedal ring can be broke, as it demonstrates here on this display. And then you can attach that with a rivet, in this case a little 632 button head screw and nut assembly. Once it's put down on the boot, the extra material can be trimmed. The boot's put on the pedal itself almost like a sock. You put it on backwards, upside down. We provide a zip tie to tie it to the pedal shaft itself, and then you just basically are turning it from inside out and lacing it back down when you mount it in the car. Master cylinders mounted off the chassis. We have a real nice master cylinder. Oh, I'm sorry, I jumped ahead here. This happens to be the master cylinder cover kit. Master cylinder cover kit shows where if the master cylinder was protruding through the floor pan, in this case, again, it's all cut away. The piece of Lexan here would be simulating the floor itself. So the plastic reservoir tank of the master cylinder would be protruding up through the floor pan and preventing the driver from entering and exiting the car and his foot hitting this or whatever. We make a floor ring, comes in a kit, and a carbon molded master cylinder cover that fits down over the cap to the floor ring and is panel fastenered on with like a Zeus fastener on each side, offering the serviceability of getting the cap off, but also while the cap's on, preventing a driver from kicking or damaging the reservoir. Also, again, preventing any exhaust fumes or anything like that from under the car entering the cockpit area. So, got a nice little gasket, rubber seal that goes around this. Same way, design where the panel, or cover I should say, is long. That way if there's a pitch in the floor or an angle, this can be trimmed to any. This just happens to be kind of squared off for the display, but this could be trimmed to any angle, front to rear, side to side, to fit down on the floor ring and be panel fastener in place. Our master cylinder mount kit, which I'll show you, comes with a rear support tube. In the Mopar style master cylinder, there's a dimpled area in the back of the casting. So even though it's firmly mounted in the front, this just adds an added support to the back of it. You run the stainless steel insert that we have, which is a pointed insert, into the cavity of the master cylinder body itself, and lock it down with the jam nut. And it just asks for, or I guess answers the need for a nice firm mounting point and not leaving the reservoir of the master cylinder hang free off the chassis. Backing up here a little bit, the pedal boot comes in a nice kit like this, again with all the necessary mounting hardware you'll need to install it. Master cylinder mounting kit, same way, instructions and everything you need. The main mounting plate, the gussets that are provided for each side, and the rear support that I spoke about. Moving around here, This is the Mopar style master cylinder, still widely used, I guess because of its lightweight, simple design and the plastic reservoir tank. We happen to use this particular master cylinder both from Strange Engineering and Lamb Components. Master cylinders taken a change over the years or whatever. The original early Mopar style master cylinders, if you have one, used to have two different port sizes. One was half 20 and the other one was 9/16 20 thread. The newer design master cylinders, in the reproduction of them and recasting of them, they've made it both ports half 20 thread. So you need to watch that if you go to order fittings or anything like that, or you're working on an older car. When the master cylinder is mounted through our mounting kit that I showed you for the chassis, one other nice thing we provide to hook it to the push rod leading to the pedal is this master cylinder dust boot. In between the plate of the chassis and the back of the master cylinder, the way this works, as you can see the dust boot and what I'll call the plunger, there's a machine plate, and once this is bolted to the back of the master cylinder and sandwiched between there, it'll prevent any chance of the master cylinder push rod ever trying to separate or get loose from the back of the master cylinder body itself. A lot of earlier cars back in the days and stuff, you probably heard the horror story of swing pedals, and maybe a guy, the brake pedal came to return, and next thing you know, it dislodged from the back of the master cylinder piston area, and you didn't have any brakes. So again, moving it down to the floor, just a nice, clean, safe way to prevent any chance of that happening. With me mentioning the master cylinder ports, once a master cylinder is mounted and into your particular chassis, you can run into a lot of vital areas as far as clearance problems. And I know I've showed our brake line kit before or whatever, but we have anything from these are machine stainless inverted flare fittings to go into the master cylinder itself, to a straight male number 3, meaning you could bring the tube nut, line, and sleeve directly up to these ports. If you get into a tight clearance area, we have what's referred to as a banjo fitting. This is the flow bolt of the banjo with a crush washer on each side, and this one happens to go to a male number 3. So again, in a tight clearance area, you can see how much you shorten the fitting up from what this would normally protrude from the master cylinder, and then also have the tube nut and sleeve going on it. And we also have those in a stainless steel banjo, female threaded, 1/8 inch NPT, to use a fitting, bring right up to the banjo itself, like the male 3. This happens to be another display showing the gas pedal on one side and the brake pedal on the other side. And what I'd like to show you here is this kind of, again, demonstrates where this would be pivoting off of the steering column. So simulation would be this tube would be coming down off the steering column. This would be a gusset support. This would be your stutter bolt out here on the end that you tighten for your pivot point. Then an added feature required in some classes, this can weld down, this particular tab can weld down the front leading edge of the gas pedal support rod, and this becomes a toe pedal lift, adjustable for any driver's foot size, up or down, and that way, in the event of a hung throttle pedal or anything stuck, the driver has the opportunity to pull back the throttle pedal. This would simulate the linkage going through the firewall, and one nice little feature we have there, which I think I showed you in previous videos when we call it like no attention or attention to details, is a throttle boot seal, just like we have one for the steering column shaft where it goes through the firewall. This happens to be one for the throttle linkage. Comes to a pointed tip like this, so whether you're running a cable or a mechanical rod, you can just snip it to the size, and that's what's being demonstrated here. And then this goes back to just a boot assembled over the whether it be clutch or brake pedal. So again, kind of a wide variety of all of our components. Again, I showed you how some of them come. The pedal kit comes complete in a kit form like this with instructions and a breakdown of all the pieces. Something I didn't show you here that I should have would be there's Torrington bearings on the pedal cross shaft assembly as it goes through, are mounts on the chassis, and then as the brake pedal pivots on the pedal shaft itself, that's all done with the Torrington bearing. The clutch pedal obviously would be fit to the shaft itself and drilled, so again, as you push the clutch pedal, it rotates the cross shaft to work the clutch linkage. And there you have it. I think pretty much something we hadn't showed you before. If you have any questions regarding putting pedals in your car or mounting your master cylinder, throttle pedal, anything like that, give us a call. We can help you. I think we have the products that I showed you here in this video that you'll need, and we can answer any of your questions.